Hi, everybody. Welcome to TLC Arts, sponsored by the Lakeside Church. And I'm very happy to have you join us today. So, you may notice that we've changed our venue and we're doing things a little bit differently. We just wanted to kind of see if we could get the ideal light for our videos. I know in the past they've been a bit dark, so sorry about that. But we're going to try to, mix it up a little bit, and hopefully you'll be able to see much better and hear us much better as well. So, of course, I'm Nicole Georges-Bennett, and I'm one of your paint teachers. Thank you for all of you who are joining me on my page on Facebook. Hi, guys. And also to all our students on TLC Arts class, thank you so much for tuning in. And, of course, my wonderfully handsome husband, Dalton, who will be doing the devotional for us today. So, you want to say hi?
Hello, TLC Arts.
So what we're going to be doing today is this. So I hope I've got that in frame. So we'll have that. We'll show that to you a little bit closer and better detail. So what that is hills, mountains. It's a painting about mountains and hills, and I want to thank Shirley Ann for putting me on to the artist who did this originally on YouTube. I think it's J. Lee Painting, and Shirley Ann did this first and showed it to the rest of us, and we just loved it. So I'm going to try to show you guys how to do it today. So because our theme is about the hills and the mountains, and of course we always want to have a devotional that ties into our theme for today, I'm going to ask Dalton to read our devotional today, which ties into our painting.
Okay, hello, TLC Arts. Our devotional comes today from Karen Holland of justworship.com. It begins, I lift my eyes to the hills. Where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. And that is from Psalm 121, verses 1 to 2. Another verse goes, Be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the earth. The Lord Almighty is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. And that is from Psalms 46, verse 10 to 11. Now she continues, Recently I felt as if the Lord was telling me to lift up my eyes and be still. I also had an image to go with this of a beautiful blue lake completely calm with snow-capped mountains in the background. I knew that this was from the above scriptures. Then the idea came that in order to be still, completely calm, you have to know where your help comes from. You have to know that Jesus Christ is your Lord, the Lord of all. Know your help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. Psalms 121, verse 2. Know that nothing is too hard for the sovereign Lord, for his great power and outstretched arm. And that's from Jeremiah 37, verse 17. Know that the Lord is good. His love and mercy never fail. Psalms 106, verse 1. Know that the one who calls you is faithful, and he will do it. 1 Thessalonians 5, verse 24. Know that the Lord who never sleeps watches over you. Psalms 121, verse 4. This prompted me to take a closer look at these scriptures. The first thing I wondered is, why the psalmist says, Lift up my eyes to the hills instead of to the Lord. From the Net Bible Hills, we find that the majesty, height, and power of the mountains reaching up to the heavens above the clouds led people to associate these hills or mountains with gods. So to say to look to the hills or mountains is another way to say look to the power and majesty of the gods. But this idea doesn't really specify which god. The Amplified Version sheds more light on this. I will lift up my eyes to the hills around Jerusalem, to sacred Mount Zion and Mount Moriah, from whence shall my help come. Psalm 121, verse 1 of the Amplified. The psalmist was saying to look to specific hills, mountains, Mount Zion and Mount Moriah. These are not just any hills that the psalmist is looking up to. These hills are closely associated with the Lord Most High, the maker of heaven and earth. Zion is the Lord's chosen dwelling place forever, the place where he is enthroned. For the Lord has chosen Zion. He has desired it for his dwelling place. This is my resting place forever. Here I will dwell, for I have desired it. Psalm 132, verse 13 and 14. I have installed my king on my holy hill of Zion. Psalms 2, verse 6. Mount Moriah is where Abraham offered up Isaac, his only true beloved son, as a sacrifice to the Lord. And this is found in Genesis 22, verses 1 through 19. Here, the Lord himself provides the lamb for sacrifice. This points to the sacrifice of Jesus as the Lamb of God. John 1:29 and 36. God's only beloved Son, John 3, verse 16, and Matthew 3:17 and Matthew 17, verse 5. So wow, the psalmist, by saying, I lift up my eyes to the hills, Mount Zion and Mount Moriah, is actually saying to focus on the Lord's dwelling place, his majesty and presence, and to remember Jesus, the Lamb of God. His blood sacrifice is only by the blood of the Lamb. It's only by the blood of the Lamb, Jesus, that we can come into the presence of the Holy God and know where our help comes from, the maker of heaven and earth, the sovereign Lord. So Psalms 121 verses 1 to 2 and Psalms 123 verses 1 to 2 are actually saying the similar things. To lift up my eyes, O you who are enthroned in the heavens, behold, as the eyes of servants look to the hand of their masters, as the eyes of a maid to the hand of her mistress, so our eyes look to the Lord our God, until he has mercy on us. Psalms 123 verses 1 through 2. This ends the reading of the devotions today. Thank you guys for your attention, and happy painting.
All right. Thank you very much. So guys, just give us a minute. We're going to start just rearranging for our actual paint session. And so that's what happens with life stuff, right? So I'm just going to try and get myself all squared away here. I really loved that devotional, and it was very, very enlightening to me. So I hope that you learned a lot as well, because I've always wondered too, like what those opening lines, about lifting your eyes to the hills and then asking, where does your help come from? I always knew that I'd read before that the hills were the place where they had the high places, the altars to other gods, when Israel was in rebellion. So it was always a little bit confusing to me, but I think that Miss Holland in her article there really explains it, that we're talking about specific hills, and we're still looking to the Lord's provision, not to the hills themselves. So good. So we've got some hills to paint today. So are we all set up, all squared away? Great. So we're gonna let Dalton go.
Goodbye.
Yeah. You're gonna get a brief glimpse of my hallway. Enjoy. And let's get started. So once again, thank you, Auntie Shirley Ann, for helping me to find this one. I really loved how yours came out. I'm not so thrilled with how mine came out, so I'm hoping I can do a better one today. So what we are going to use today, and I would have mentioned this to you before, is we're going to have a sponge, and we're going to use a big brush, and we're also going to use our small brush as well, and that's going to be towards the end of our class. We'll use the small brush. So here we go. So the colors we're going to be using today are orange, yellow, and white. We're going to blend out our sky down to the base here, and then we're going to use dark blue or green if you choose to. So it all depends on what color your hills that you would like them to be. So let's go. I want to say hi to Joan. Thank you, Joan. And also Christine, my paint teaching partners. And Christine, thank you for that beautiful craft that you did last week. Got us right in the mood for Christmas. Got us started for Christmas. So that's awesome. And I know you guys really enjoyed that as well. So we're going to start. We're going to do orange to the top half, and then yellow, and then more of a pale yellow towards the bottom here. We're going to start just at the top here with our big brush, just laying in that color. I feel like this is going to fall on my head, so I'm going to put this down here for the time being. I hope you like the change of venue and that you can see more clearly. Just going to cover this. So this one is actually probably going to be a quick one for us. I am planning that the next one will be fall themed more. I mean, this is kind of fall themed too, in that we've got this beautiful orange sky. And that one's going to take a bit longer. That one will probably take us about maybe the full 2 hours or so. But today is just going to be a quick and easy one. You can maybe even do 2 of these if you like. You can just change up your color scheme. You could have an early morning sky maybe with more pale blues. You could have a stormy sky with your grays and your darker shades of blue. You could have a violet sky. You know, if you want to have something a bit more artistic, or more abstract. But for now, we're doing sort of the same color scheme that Jay Lee used in his original. So we're going to start with the orange, and then we're going to follow up with yellow, and we're going to blend that together. I hope you can hear the sound of nature in the background there. I decided to take a page out of Joan's book and not have YouTube throw me off like they did the last time. I tried to play some music. So let's see here. Sometimes they get so dried up in the tops, you know, it's so hard. Hope you guys had a good week. And if you have any questions, feel free to just drop it in the comments below. I'll try to answer them as best as I can, or Joan or Christine will handle that for you. Alright. So you're going to come down to maybe about a third of your painting. I think this particular painting would probably look best on a shorter canvas. Just my feeling. But I mean, it can work on a canvas this size as well. So now we bring in our yellow, and we're just blending that. And this will take us down to the second third. So ideally, we do want to take some time to let this dry. So that will probably be a good time to deal with any questions that might come up. You can bring some of that yellow up, because the idea is that you want to have, it's a seamless sky, right? You don't want to have blocks of color. So if you feel like you're looking at your sky and you can see like the orange comes to here and it stops, and then the yellow starts here and it stops, and then the lighter shade of yellow starts, and you can see the exact hard demarcation or mark where your colors are kind of separated. You don't want that. Whatever you do, try to avoid that. What you want to do is you want to come back in here and just blend them out. So I don't want to see that when you post your finished paintings. We just want a nice blend. Okay? It's almost like a seamless transition is what we're looking for. And then as we get down to the last third here, we're going to add a little bit of white to our yellow color. See if I can find my white here. Thank you, Joan, for always preparing our paint packages. She puts them in these little containers that are so handy. And every week she does it without complaining. And we love you, and we thank you, Joan, for all of the extra effort and work that you put into making sure that everybody's ready for class. We've got some really noisy birds here. So what we're going to do is we're going to mix a touch of yellow into our white, and that will take us into our next transition color right here. The other thing that we're going to do is we're going to use some just some paper stencils, and I'll show you how to do that. Shirley Ann made them better than me in hers, in terms of her shapes of her mountains. That's actually what we're going to use to make our mountains. We're going to use stencils. We're not going to be painting them in today, which is why we only have the 2 brushes. Now, I do think if you wanted to paint them in, you could. It might be even an opportunity to use a palette knife if you feel confident, you know, to make hills with palette knives, like some folks. I'm still getting there. And again, what we're looking for is just that nice transition. Remember to paint along the sides for continuity. So I've got a makeup brush that I use sometimes to kind of get that blending done a little bit more smoothly. So it's not the easiest thing to use, but I do like the effect that it has. It softens those brush strokes. And I just got these from the Dollarama. Just any old makeup brush will do. And it just kind of gives it more of a soft blend. There we go. Okay. So we're gonna let this dry for a little bit, and then I'll show you how I did the stencils. I hope I'm not going too fast, but this will, while we're letting this dry, it should give you a chance to kind of catch up. If you feel that your colors don't look very rich enough, or you feel like you're still seeing some white parts of the canvas coming out, all you have to do is just give it another coat of paint, and that should take care of any white spots that are peeping out. Okay, make sure that you rinse out your brushes. Do not leave your brushes soaking, right? Because you will end up loosening the glue, as Joan has told us in the past, and I think I've mentioned to you before, I have lost brushes that way. I'm trying to see if I've got a brush that got loose like that. Is it this one? No, I think I probably, yeah, like this. So this is what happens when you soak your brushes like for long hours in the water. The glue that's holding this part, the metal part, to your, what do you want to call this thing here? Your paintbrush. It does loosen off, and then it's kind of a hassle because then you either have to like squeeze it or try to re-glue it yourself, which is never ideal. So rinse out your brushes and then take them out. Don't leave them soaking for a long time. So I'm gonna follow my own advice. So if you don't already have it, what you need now is like about maybe 2 sheets of paper. You can use any kind of scrap paper. It's probably better to use scrap paper because you don't want to waste paper. Alright? So, all I did is that I just got a regular 8x10 or whatever it is sheet of paper, and I just sort of ripped it, and I'm just going to do this one as well, into kind of hill shapes. Hope you can see that. Just very, what you kind of imagine the mountain ranges would look like. And the more you do is the more dramatic your mountain range will be. Right? So then you end up with something that kind of looks like this. And that's what we're going to lay out here. So because I'm using kind of, these sheets are a bit shorter than our canvas, so we'll just kind of move them a little bit. If you have 11 by 17 sheet of paper, then it will probably work a bit better. So that's all you do. You just find a piece of paper, and like I said, you just kind of tear upwards in that upwards motion to get that sort of rolling hill effect. And then what we're going to do is we're going to sort of come about, maybe about 2 or 3 inches in, and we're going to use this, lay this down, and I'll show you. We'll be using our sponge to kind of tap out the shape of the hills. Now you will need maybe about 4 or 5 of these sort of type of stencils, because we're going to lay them down as sort of like different mountain ranges that you're looking at, these mountains ranging backwards towards the horizon. So you'll have like 1, 2, 3. It's a very hilly landscape that we'll be dealing with. So like it to be a little bit more dry, and that should give you time to kind of tear your stencils. And the next thing we'll be using is our sponge. So I'm going to be using a very dark color, a dark shade of blue, but you can just use regular blue, or if you want to, you could do a mix of maybe dark green or green with blue, or you could just use dark green if you prefer. And to make dark green, if you don't have the actual shade, you just add either a touch of black to it. You basically can do sort of anything your imagination, anything your imagination desires in terms of your color scheme for this. But I wanted to try this dark blue on the orange. So all my hills will be dark blue. Okay. And just in case you're curious, this type of blue is Prussian blue. I really like this color. Okay, so I think we're good to get started here. Before we do that though, let's put in a few clouds just to add a bit of interest. So with your your small brush, because you should have your smallest brush. I did tell you we would be needing it. What we're going to do is we're going to go back into that yellow white mix, and you can just quickly whip up a little bit if you've used it all up already. And we're just going to add some streaks, some cloud streaks. So we're just going to come just very gently. If you want to, you could use more defined shapes, but because this is sort of an abstract type of a look here, I'm just doing sort of clouds that almost mimic the landscape below. So nothing fancy, just doing like this, almost like it's just whisper clouds, and the wind is sort of just carrying them away. Rinse out your brush, we will need it later, and we will be coming back to our white and yellow mix again. Okay, so let's get started on the fun part. So using your stencil, you're going to come below your cloud cover, below your clouds. You're going to dip a little bit of the paint onto your sponge here. You're going to just sort of dab out the extra paint. And then you're going to come along the shape of your stencil and just move your hand across like this to keep your stencil in place. Just like this. Grab more paint if you need to. And what I'm going to do is, because mine is not fully as long as my canvas, I'm going to come back here and just drag my stencil down to the end. Gently move it away, and voila. Yep. Looks very dramatic, eh? So, because you will have different shapes, and let's see, you're going to want to come maybe about just a ½ inch below that, because you do kind of want your mountains to touch just a little bit. Come back in with your sponge. So this should be your second stencil. If you want to use the same stencil for all of them, you can, but then you've got a landscape that's very uniform in look, and mountains don't tend to be like that, right? God made them unique, makes each mountain unique, makes it different. So we want our mountains to kind of reflect that. That's what we do. We sort of follow the Lord as our example as to what He's done in the natural world, and we do it in art. So I've got a little sticky. Okay. If you have the time, you can wait for each one to dry before you lay in the next one. But I don't want to keep you guys here all Saturday, so we're just gonna go ahead like this. I'm just going to come back in here, some areas where that must. looking good. So I'm gonna do maybe about 5 of these. You can do as many as you like. The more you go is the busier it gets, so you might not want to do that. Let's see. I'm just wondering if I can change up my shapes here a little bit. So we could possibly do them this way as well. Just kind of changing my plan here a little bit. This may or may not work. Yeah, not feeling it as much, but it's okay. Just kind of changed my plan there at the last minute. Because art is all about experimenting, right? So I would suggest you not do what I just did. If it's too late, don't worry about it. So I'm going to go back to the original plan here. Move that up a little bit more. Oh, I see. Okay. The best thing to do is to let each layer kind of dry a little bit before you move on to the next one. I'm just trying to save time here by going ahead. Go. I'm just going to put in one last layer here. It's a little tricky. All right, so we've got our mountains all nicely laid out. Just gonna touch up this one right here. And Here's a little trick. If you have paint left over, you can, if you don't want to mix it back in with the other paint, I don't think you're supposed to do that, you can take a bit of cling wrap and cover it over. And that should keep it moist for a few days at least until you get a chance to use it up. All right, so what we have now is we've got our mountain range. What we need to put in is our clouds. So I'm going to let this dry a little bit, and then I'm going to come back in with our big brush. If you wanted to, you could use your sponge or a smaller sponge and dab, just sort of white clouds in between our mountains to give it, that sort of impression that they're really high up into the sky type thing. In the meantime, what I can do is I can show you how to put in our sun. So for that, we're going to go back to our yellow and our white. Oops. We'll start with our yellow first. Using our small brush, we're going to do sort of a little circular aurora or area to indicate that this is where our sun is setting or rising, setting, I guess. So I think I would like to place it right about here. So we're just going to come in here with our yellow, and we're just going to do these sort of semicircle shapes in this area. And all you're doing is you're just taking your paint and letting it get less and less diffused, I suppose, or more diffused rather. So you'll have less and less paint as you get further up into the sky, and that's kind of the impression we're looking for. It's kind of the look we want.